Welcome, welcome, welcome back, my Be Health Empowered family, to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. My name is Dr. Melissa Clark. Please call me Dr. Mel. I am delighted to be back here with you to create an amazing week doing what we do here, which is getting you the evidence and the information that you need to make wise health decisions, not just for yourself, but for your family and even for your community. And if you're checking us out for the first time, please remember to hit that like button if you're seeing us on Facebook, and that subscribe button, that red button on YouTube, if that is where you are tuning in. And we are here specifically to answer your questions, to participate in a dialogue with you. So please go ahead and put those questions in the chat when they come up as we go through the wonderful topics that we have for you. And if you are not a first time Be Health Empowered family member, you know that I have to have Miss Lila Mays and Mr. Wayne Bruce running the show with me. And so I'm wondering where they are. Where y'all at?
We're right here.
All right. Fantastic.
Hi, people. Hi,
Dr.
Mel.
It's been a minute. It's good to be back. The three amigos.
Yeah. You know, it's something for teamwork, to say about teamwork. Teamwork is amazing. And we in such a teamwork mode, I'm like working. My intern set me up for failure, but I'm need a new intern.
That intern who always goes nameless. Always.
I don't want to, for fear of retaliation.
Any kind of retaliation, sure.
For fear of retaliation, I can't name the intern.
Right. Snuffleupagus. Let's call him Snuffleupagus.
Snuffleupagus. How you know it's a him? I ain't even saying the gender.
There you go.
I refuse to say the gender.
Him, her.
I refuse to say it. They, them.
Well,
what's going on with you, Dr. Mel? You know what? Can I interrupt you, Dr. Mel? Can I interrupt you?
Go ahead.
Dr. Mel,
go ahead.
If you notice, everybody on the right side of the screen has a hat on. Just saying.
I know. It's the sense of style that you all bring to Excuse Me, Doctor. I mean,
it is.
That's why it works. That's why it works.
The sense of style. I'm taking
a picture of it. You gotta have the odd woman out.
I'm taking a picture of it.
Highlight the ones with the style.
Yeah, we try, Dr. Mel. We try.
Well, y'all do a good job.
Lie, how you been?
Great. I've been great.
So what?
Y'all welcome back, Lila Mays. What we got?
I didn't hear you, Dr. Mel. What did you say?
I said, what are we talking about tonight? What's going on?
Yes, we are talking about hospital stays. Most people get to the hospital and they think, all right, I can relax. The pros have it from here. I don't have to worry anymore. But I've heard from you, Dr. Mel, that staying safe and thriving in the hospital takes a lot more teamwork than people realize.
That is absolutely right. Not just teamwork, but advocacy. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book, Excuse Me, Doctor, from, experiences that I had in my own family with my dad when he had Parkinson's. I mentioned to the hospital staff when he was admitted, hey, he doesn't really take his blood pressure medicine. Again, you might want any more, because he's lost weight. Why don't you hold off on the blood pressure medicine that he used to take? Well, lo and behold, I showed up the next morning. They had given it to him and his heart stopped because his blood pressure dropped all the way. Luckily, they were able to resuscitate him and bring him back. But, it might not have had that outcome. Right? And so,
what in the entire hishigity of
But that's one reason I wrote the book. It's important to be involved, to stay on top of things. And there's a whole chapter in the book, Excuse Me, Doctor, which is where the show gets its name, that talks about surviving a hospital stay.
Yeah, I know. I know my story is dealing with my dad as well. It's been so many. He was in the hospital off and on for a number of years, but it's so many. But one that sticks out in my memory was we we knew he was having a stroke, and we took him in to to you know to the hospital, and the doctor came to me and said, Mr. Mr. Bruce, you'd be happy to know your dad is not having a stroke, while I'm watching him having a stroke. And I said, you know, we said, hey, have you looked at him? He was like, no, but I've read the nurse's notes.
The
He
CAT
had read
scan.
he had read the wrong
Yeah,
notes on the wrong patient.
right.
Oh,
And we asked had he looked at the chart, and he hadn't looked at the chart.
Right.
And it's so crazy. Like, the man was actually having a stroke, and he told us he didn't, and was treating him as he did not have a stroke.
Right. And so you asked to look at the chart,
Chart. Hmm.
right, to see the reading of the CAT scan. And sure enough, the CAT scan said stroke,
Stroke,
right?
big
Which
as
is
day.
one of the tips. And excuse me, doctor, uh, that says always ask for a written copy of the results so you can
Pa-
double check that.
Page 54. You said so. Check page 54. I was like,
Yeah.
how did we know before Dr. Mel's book? How did we know? It was
we did.
absolutely crazy. And it's one of the reasons that you absolutely need to share this episode, and after this tape, just give it to your friends, because we're covering why you need to be hospital smart, and what
Right.
we're diving in. What can you do to protect yourself and your loved ones during a hospital stay? So they don't. If you don't ask the right questions, they could end up right back in the ER, or right back, or they could end up not with us any longer. I know.
Right.
I don't want to bring the next story up because I'm just,
Yeah.
we it's close to my heart. Recently, one of my friends, just they didn't make a lot of right calls. Not my friend, but the doctors in the
The
hospital.
doctor's
So
taking care of them. Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, that's why we, Wayne, me and you, the A team, are going to interview Dr. Mel about how to choose the right hospital,
I'm an
what
interviewer this
quality
week.
care really means, and why advocacy in the hospital is a key part of your healing journey. That's why we
Yep,
talking about
whether you're visiting your pop or recovering from surgery yourself, or just planning ahead, grab your notepad, because it could literally save your life.
Yes. So stay tuned. We'll help you thrive through your hospital stay and beyond.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But before we do, since this is a takeover, a quiet takeover, let's go to what's happening this week in the world of health and wellness. Let's get it.
Drum roll.
Hold on.
Intern needs to bring that drum roll in.
How
We
about
keep saying it.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll
there
take
we
that.
go.
I'll take
Okay,
that. I'll
we'll
take
take the
that.
Jamaican drum roll.
Exactly. All right, the surprising
Booyah.
scoop of protein powder. So, Dr. Mill, a lot of people swear by protein powders as part of their health routine, but I'm hearing they might have too much lead. Is that for
Lead.
real?
You read it right. Yes, unfortunately. So Consumer Reports, the publication tested 23 protein powders and shakes. And it turned out that many of them had lead levels higher than what's considered safe, especially the plant-based ones.
Why why would the plant-based powders be worse?
So the plant-based powders are made from peas and rice, and they sort of are really great at absorbing heavy metals from the
Mm,
soil. So those
okay.
heavy metals get into the rice and the peas, and the powders that are made from them, therefore, carry higher lead levels and also other heavy metals, actually higher than the dairy based ones or the beef based ones.
Wow. So I saw that they flagged two in particular, Naked Nutrition's vegan mass gainer and Huel's black edition, both with lead levels more than 10 times the safety benchmark. That's wild. What's the bottom line? Should we stop using all protein powders?
Well, I think it's really important to choose the brands that publish that they have third-party heavy metal testing,
Okay.
right? As a quality measure. So there are ones out there that if you read the Consumer Report article, they recommend them. You wanna sort of limit your use, don't necessarily rely on them every day. And then there are protein sources, from the food that we eat, from eggs to beans to meat to fish to nuts. There are other ways to get your protein in without necessarily relying exclusively on these shakes and powders. And if you're pregnant, this is really key. Don't give them to children. Don't take them if you're pregnant, unless you've cleared it with your doctor and you're 100% sure it's okay.
All right. So it sounds like less powder, more real food is the safest way to go
Yes,
in many
absolutely.
cases. Okay.
Number two, look, Dr. Mel, soda shock. How can soda be feeding cancer? So I gotta admit, I've been known to drink a diet soda or two
Or
or
two.
four. So needless to say, I found this headline a bit disturbing. Both sugary and diet sodas might be linked to fatty liver disease or even liver cancer.
Mm.
Yeah, so a large observational study, I mean, like over 120,000 people, they followed them over years and found that consuming just one can a day, one can of either a sugary soda or a diet soda was tied to a higher risk of fatty liver disease. And it turns out that the risk from the diet soda was higher than the sugary sodas.
One can. But I thought diet drinks were healthier. Why are they associated with higher risk?
So it's not 100% sure, but the thought is that the sweeteners in the diet
Mhm.
soda do a couple things. They disrupt the healthy bacteria in your gut, what we know as the microbiome. They interfere with your body's natural ability to feel full, so you have more sugar cravings,
Oh,
and
wow.
it also interferes with the signaling of insulin in terms of insulin getting released. So that too also can lead to worsened sugar craving. So bottom line, you end up eating more sweet stuff on the back end.
What about the link
Ah,
to cancer?
So fatty liver
Mhm,
that's like fat infiltrating your liver, being where it
mhm,
doesn't belong.
mhm.
And then that can lead to scarring in the liver. And that inflammation and scarring is what then makes it fertile ground for cancer uh, um, to pop off, so to speak, in the liver. So it's really the fatty liver disease that leads to inflammation and scarring, which then sets the liver up for the growth of potential cancer, liver cancer.
So I gotta quit diet, not just the sugary, regular sodas.
So the study saw an association, which means that they couldn't necessarily say, yes, this is definitely one thing is definitely causing the other, but there was a strong association between the consumption of diet soda or sugary soda and this fatty liver disease. But for many other reasons, like other studies that link diet sodas to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and even dementia, I think it's really a good idea to just cut out soda, focus on water or other unsweetened drinks like tea.
So no sweet tea.
Minimal sweetening, minimal. Not like pouring the whole thing of sugar in it to make it sweet.
So no sweet tea. Let's just say no sweet tea. Like we
Yeah,
gotta get
let's
away
just
from
say
sweet
no
tea.
sweet tea. Yeah. I mean, the less sugar we consume, the better
Mhm,
is the
mhm.
bottom line.
Lord have
It's
mercy.
just
And not
water
substitute
and
it with
sugar.
diet stuff.
It's a lot of restrictions in life now.
Just sugar is a big one though.
You
Sugar,
wanna live?
a,
But do you
a,
wanna live?
right,
I wanna
exactly. And
live.
do you wanna live a healthy life that's long?
Yeah.
And that
right?
I
As
do.
opposed to a long life that's not healthy.
And that I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Getting Michelle Obama arms for long life. So I saw a story about how muscular we are relates to our longevity, especially women. What's up with that, Dr. Bell?
So, speaking of long, healthy life, right? This study showed that muscle mass is a key predictor of longevity because it protects your bones and your joints. It allows you to stay mobile as you get older. It helps you regulate blood sugar and cardiovascular health. So, you also avoid uh, diabetes, which you know has a ton of complications. And it helps you support a healthy weight.
All right. I hear that using resistance bands is great. And we have some in the house that I need to start incorporating into my routine, as well as some weightlifting and some body weight exercises. So start incorporate that. I want some Michelle Obama arms. I used to have them.
Me too. I want them, and the goal, really trying to get that weight training in 3 days a week is really a good start, a good goal to set. So
Okay.
that's the goal that I have right now
And
for the Michelle Obama arms.
the farmers carries, with the kettlebells, like carrying
Yeah,
them.
man.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
that too.
That's
I don't know
good.
about farmers carrying it, but I do know about kettlebells.
Do you?
Yeah.
You know what's next?
The weekly debunk. Stopping misinformation in its tracks.
So I saw Ida IG giving out advice on decreasing cholesterol, and she said you must cut eggs out of your diet because they raise cholesterol. Is that true?
Um, I don't know. I don't think that is true. It is actually not true. Eating an egg or two a day doesn't really substantially raise the risk of heart disease in healthy people. The yolks of eggs do have cholesterol, but for most of us, the amount that's found in an egg yolk isn't as bad for you as the mix of fats from all the other stuff that we eat, which is really the stuff that you should be focused on cutting out. So, fatty cuts of meat like beef, pork, lamb, or also shrimp, organ meat like liver, processed foods like hot dogs, half smokes, bacon. We talked about that before. Um, Full fat dairy products like whole milk and cheese, fried foods, and then things that are high in trans fats like margarine or shortening or processed foods like cookies, crackers, pastries. All those things have unhealthy fats that can definitely raise your cholesterol. So, eggs are a very minor player. And, because of the other omega 3s and um, protein that egg has, I don't think that it's a huge player in trying to get your cholesterol down.
All right. Well, I'm just taking a moment of silence for my hot links and
Which you do every time we talk
my
about this.
shrimp. I know it's
And there you have it.
but I have made adjustments. I've made adjustments, but shrimp
Okay,
too.
that's
Shrimp
important.
too.
Well, again, this is if you have high cholesterol. These are the things that you should really monitor, cut out, or eat very sparingly.
Okay.
Wow.
Shrimp is a joy spark, but okay.
You
Okay.
call it Joy Spot? That's cool. That's very cool. That's very cool. So on from
Yeah.
this. So I like to start here from this. Lila, go ahead.
All right. Well, nobody plans to go to the hospital, right? We don't plan on ending up in the hospital. But when it happens, it can be a lot.
For real. Between the long waits, the medical jargon, trying to make sure folks actually listen to what uh, you say, it's a whole job being a patient.
It is a whole job being a patient. And and I'm just gonna tack on there the wake ups in the middle of the night for vitals and all of
Oh
that. Like
man.
it is not a walk in the park. It's not if you think you're going to the hospital to rest, you won't get a little sleep, but you are going to be awakened. Anywho, it really can be an issue for us as Black people because we don't get the same attention and or respect as we deserve. But we're here to change that. We're going to talk about how to
Exactly.
change
Today, we are talking about how to survive a hospital stay, how to speak up for yourself, how to ask the right questions, how to make sure you leave there feeling cared for and not overlooked.
that. Yes, and you know our girl, Dr. Mel, she's got the inside scoop. What doctors wish you knew before that hospital wristband goes on.
Wow. So, our guest today is Dr. Melissa Clark. She's a Harvard educated emergency physician and has been a healthcare commentator on, hold on, we didn't do it.
Y'all still there?
Yes. Brother
Oh,
Wayne. All right.
I'm on mute. Well, how did
Okay.
where's the intern? Excuse
I
me.
don't know that.
Dr. Melissa Clark, a Harvard educated emergency physician. She's been a healthcare commentator on CNN, the Russ Parr Morning Show, and multiple podcasts. She's the author of the book, Excuse Me, Doctor, I've Got What? Taking ownership of your health and making healthcare work for you, designed to empower individuals on how to successfully get the best quality care and take charge of their health and healthcare experience. Dr. Mel, welcome to Excuse Me, Doctor with Dr. Mel.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And thank you for saying the book with attitude. Excuse me, doctor. I've got what? Yeah.
I say, excuse me, doctor. I've got what?
I've got
Right.
what?
Exactly.
I've got what? So, Dr. Mel, I mean, and some of the folks in the audience have the book already. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing book. I mean, tell us more about the book. Just go on a little bit about the book.
Well, it really is a way for you to be your own best health advocate. It is from first starting with self-care, and then when you have to interact with the healthcare system, whether it's a preventive visit or hospitalization, it helps you with tips to navigate those experiences. And I don't only talk about Western medicine because I'm actually certified in acupuncture. So I really believe about integrating the best of alternative medicine as well as what we call Western medicine. So there's a whole section about how to also work with multiple different kinds of practitioners to really get the best care for whatever your particular condition is.
And I just have to say, I appreciate you so much, Dr. Mel, because I have the book myself. But you have never turned down a call where I'm like, I have this pain or I have that, and what is this? So shout out to you for being accessible to me that way, because I ask questions that I'm sure are answered in the book. But when you have access to folks, you call.
We got access.
Questions are important, and we hope that everybody's putting them in the chat as we move through here. So
Lila, kick it off.
Yeah, of course. So I said this earlier, so many people assume that once they're admitted for a hospital stay, they can relax and the hospital takes it from there. But Dr. Mel, why is it so important for patients and family to stay actively involved in their care?
Well, hospitalization is a major life event, even if it's something minor, right? And hospitals are very complex places, a lot of stuff going on at any particular time. Communication is crucial between the doctors, the patients, the families, the nurses, the hospital staff. It's really critical for the success of the individual patient. And when it's done seamlessly, when it's done well, it leads to healing and it can be life-saving. But it always doesn't go smoothly, right? Actually, unfortunately, nearly 25% of hospital patients experience a preventable safety event, whether it's a medication error, a fall, or an infection. And communication breakdowns are often the leading cause of why these things happen. I told you the story about my dad that, illustrates the need for not just clear communication, but family vigilance. And so I always recommend staying vigilant, being a communicative family member or communicative friend, and keeping a list of medications and doses that the person is on, taking notes, confirming orders or changes to orders with the care team, especially at times of handoff. So, like when one doctor is leaving the service and another doctor is coming on, right? Those times are critical. Or when the person is leaving the hospital, right? That's another transition time when it's really important to make sure that all those I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And then even doing things like checking the label on your ID band and your medications,
Right.
or just asking the nurse to make sure that they double check if they
Can
missed that spot.
can
That,
you
yeah.
ask that? What should people feel like they're offended by that? I mean, some people won't ask because they feel like I don't want to offend anybody, right? Because I'm
One in,
scared.
I get it. But 1 in 4, 25% of the time, there's some error, whether it's minor, whether it's major. So would you rather be the recipient of being an error, in care, or would you rather potentially offend somebody? And I think there's a way to do it in a way that it's not offensive or making it seem like you're trying to do the person's job for them. Say, hey, can you just double check this for me? I just want to make sure that everything's cool, right? There are ways to do it where you don't feel like you're stepping on people's feet or toes.
25% is high.
Yeah,
That's high.
That is not a small percentage.
yeah.
Uh,
It's a quarter.
Right. The top organizations for quality that monitor quality in hospitals, one is called the Joint Commission and another is called the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. Both of them recommend having a designated family advocate, somebody who's empowered to ask the questions, and make those observations, Wayne, that you said that, people might be afraid to ask. But it's just really important to just say, can you please explain what's being done and why every
Yeah.
time the opportunity comes up.
Yeah, I want to jump in right there because I many people don't know this, but I had a younger brother, my sister, and my dad had a son in his second marriage, and he died at 23 or 24 from a very rare case, a very rare cancer that would
Oh,
have been identified had folks done their job and dug into his chart and realized he was a sickle cell carrier, et cetera, right? It
mhm.
wasn't until Angela and I got on site and we start asking a million questions. Finally, the doctor was like, do y'all have medical degrees? No, but there's some
mhm,
questions that need to be
right,
answered that probably
Mhm.
should have been asked some months
right,
ago.
Mhm.
right.
So ask. Be the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Same with my dad. I mean, I talk
Yeah.
about his. I also was a caretaker for my mom, and
Mhm.
I knew less. I had a medical consultant on the side that would feed me questions to ask the
Right.
doctor. But when I got time to my dad, and it's almost not necessarily a 20-year span, but it's about a 14 to 15-year span between their
Mhm.
hospitalizations. And he had COPD. So they
Okay.
can't get their oxygen level up to 98 or 99. It's dangerous for them. And
Right.
so they were steady trying to get this guy up to 99, and they call it simulant. What is it called, Dr. Mel? When when
Um,
when they get
car-
to it oversaturated with
right. It decreases the person's drive to breathe, so they start retaining carbon dioxide, and it makes them sleepy.
right. And
Yeah,
we had to tell
and it could.
everybody every day. I mean, because somebody would go in and say, "Oh, his oxygen level is not high enough."
Mhm.
And be
Let me
like,
turn the
"Let me
oxygen up.
turn up the oxygen." We come in, and I would come in, and oxygen level would be through the roof. You're like,
Right,
and he'd be asleep. And
right.
so it was very dangerous. So, um, Dr. Mel, what are the practical steps? I mean, that patients can take to choose a high quality hospital before an emergency happens.
Sure. And, so emergencies are unavoidable and you're just going to have to go to the closest hospital. But if you're having an elective procedure or you can choose what hospital you're going to get treated at, it's important to know the hospitals in your area and which ones have a great reputation. It was found that people that were admitted to hospitals that had sort of the best safety grades had a 30% lower mortality for common conditions compared to hospitals that didn't have the best safety grades. So, how do you figure that out? You go to Medicare.gov, that's a website put out by the federal government, and they have a system called Hospital Compare. That's what it's called. It's on the
Hmm.
website. And you can check for infection rates, for the rates of readmissions. That means how often people get readmitted to that hospital because things weren't
Mhm.
done right the first time around. And then also patient experience scores, people actually rating the hospital, kind of like a Yelp for restaurants, right? So
Yeah.
you can go to Medicare.gov Hospital Compare and check out hospitals in your area. I mentioned the Joint Commission. They also have um, a website and they give hospitals a good seal accreditation. So you can check and make sure whether your local hospitals, which ones have that good seal accreditation. And the bonus is that Joint Commission also rates home health care agencies as well. So you can also do a 2-for-1 that with that. And then the third place that you can check is an organization called Leapfrog Group. So leapfroggroup.org. They also tell you about the safest hospitals near you. And the bonus on that website is they have videos for patients and their families about preparing for a procedure or preparing for a hospitalization, the questions that you should be asking. So those three websites are great ways to check things out.
And that was leapfrog.org.
Leapfroggroup.org.
Okay. I mean, everybody, and we're going to put that in the chat. So check the chats wherever you're watching, wherever you're, leapfroggroup.org.
Right. And if all
Leapfroggroup.org.
else fails and you don't have internet, you can always ask your primary care doctor, where do you send your family?
Oh,
Word.
that
Word.
there's the nugget.
Yeah.
Ask them, where do you send your family? What hospital would you go to? Because they all know. They all
Right.
know
Right.
good hospitals, and they all know hospitals that aren't as good.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. All right. So, Dr. Mill, if infection is one of the main reasons of areas of concern, what can you as a patient do or do for your loved one as their advocate to cut the risk of infection while they're in the hospital or while you're in the hospital?
Right. And as Wayne pointed out, you might not think that it's your place to question, but it's important to take an active, informed role with everything, and infection is no different. So I would say there are three things to watch out for. One is hand hygiene. So before anybody
Mhm.
touches you, even your doctor, ask them to wash their hands and any equipment, especially a stethoscope, that they're going to put on your body. Okay, so that's the first thing.
Okay.
Um, the second is, a lot of times you're in the hospital, you're going to have an IV, you might have a catheter, you might have a tube, a catheter that goes in your bladder, for example. And the longer these things stay in your body, the higher the risk of infection. So if you're in the hospital for several days, it's important to ask each day, hey, when can this IV or when can this catheter come out? Right.
Mhm.
And then the last thing is just, when the housekeeping folks come around, they're supposed to be cleaning all the high touch surfaces. Just keep an eye out and ask, hey, can you make sure that um, things get cleaned regularly in your room, especially the high touch surfaces.
So, Dr. Mel, I've had a few hospital stays, and I said this earlier. One of the most annoying things is like being awakened every hour for vitals or however often they do it. But one of the other things that has been problematic for me is like really, really uncomfortable lines, IV lines. Should we, as a patient, have that done again to try to make it more comfortable, or just suffer through it? Because I've just suffered through it many times.
If it's uncomfortable, it could mean that it is misplaced and,
Mhm.
the fluid might not be going into the vein. So it's
Okay.
always important to ask the nurse to double check because the IV should not hurt
Okay.
when once it's in. So if
Right.
it's uncomfortable, always ask somebody to check it, and make sure that it's flowing well and that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
And I ask that because that just feeds back into this whole thing about not wanting to ask a question, not wanting to
Mhm.
be obnoxious or whatever, but it's our care. We
Yeah,
get to advocate
you're a
for
part of the
ourselves.
you as the patient are the most important part of the care team,
Yeah.
and your voice has to be heard.
So,
Okay.
wow. So, Dr. Mel, I want to go to the book, right? I want to go to the book because it emphasizes being an advocate, right? What should that person do actually once they get in the hospital and get a room?
Yes. So your advocate are your eyes, your ears, your voice when you can't be because a lot of times as a patient, that's why you're there. You're not 100% and therefore you
Right.
can't be your own advocate. So your advocate should be somebody who's polite but can be firm and be engaged. And that might not be, your spouse or your significant other. It might be your bestie, it might be a relative, right? It might be a good friend. So whoever it is, they should always be there when the doctor's round. And that tends to be the same time every day. So be there to ask questions. And then during the rounds, take notes and ask the same 3 questions every day. What is the plan for today?
Mhm.
What are the signs to look for that I'm getting better if you're the patient or my loved one is getting better? And then what are the next steps and why? Those are the same questions you should ask every day because that keeps accountability going, it keeps
Mhm.
communication going, and it makes sure that you know what the plan is so that if something seems off, you can step up and say, "Excuse me, doctor, that doesn't match what was said yesterday."
So
Mhm.
that's
Or why did
important.
things
That's
change?
important. I want to interrupt you here. That's important.
Mhm.
And sometimes we get away from it because you know it really well. Give me question one. What's the first question?
First question is, what is the plan for today? Meaning, what's going to happen? Am I going to go off for a CAT scan? Am I getting my blood drawn? Am I going to surgery today? Whatever it is, typically there is a plan for the day. Am I having physical therapy? Am I having occupational therapy? What is the plan for today?
Okay.
And it might be multiple things.
So what's question number two?
Number two, what are the signs to look for that so that I know that I'm getting better? So,
Mm.
Mm,
is it my temperature going down? Is it my oxygen going up? Is
mhm,
it my ability to get up out of the bed
mhm.
unassisted? What is the goal? What are we working towards? Because
Mm.
that way you can keep an eye on it yourself too. And every time the nurse comes and takes your vital signs, you can ask them, "Hey, how much closer are we to that goal?" Right? So
Mhm.
know what the signs are to look for to that signify you're getting better.
Okay. And now question number three.
What are the next steps and why? So the what are the next steps in my care? Am
Mhm.
I getting a consultation from a oncologist because I have been diagnosed with cancer and why this particular oncologist? So understand what the next step is after, after the rounds for that day and why is it being taken.
Okay. To follow up, should I should I be who am I asking this to? Who am I asking it to? The person coming in and drawing my blood? Am I asking it to the
No.
person changing the trash can? Who needs? I need to know who am I talking to?
So as I mentioned before, every day doctors do rounds.
Okay.
You're asking it preferably to the head doctor on the team. So whoever the most senior doctor is on the team. Typically, that person is called the attending. But if you're in a teaching hospital, it might be the senior resident or the second year resident. But whoever the most senior person is on that team, that's who you're asking.
And there's nothing wrong with writing those questions on the whiteboard in your room, just so you can ask them, remember, because they're going to put
Excellent.
information up. There's a lot of important information on the whiteboard in your room. Write those
Yeah.
questions down on the whiteboard. Michelle Walker Scales asked a really good question. And I think, Michelle, this really goes right into what you're asking. What about when the patient is nonverbal or semi-conscious?
Yeah.
That's why it helps to have an advocate in the room to ask all of those questions, right? So
Yeah.
we get to use all of our resources, and that whiteboard is a good resource for information.
And some hospitals actually now, if you don't have a family member, they have patient navigator programs or private patient advocates that can serve that role if you don't have a family member who can be there, for you.
Oh, that's a great question, Michelle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Dr. Mill.
Well, I was also going to add, just like the story that Wayne told about his dad and asking to see a copy of the CT scan, you should always ask to see a copy of the test results, right?
Yeah.
Or the scans, radiology scans, or the discharge plans, right? And then if you're a person of color, like we are, Black or Hispanic patients have been known to be dismissed when it comes to pain, right? Pain
That's what
is
that was the next
underestimated.
thing.
Yep.
That was the next question. That was
Yes.
it.
Well,
Like,
as an advocate, go ahead.
well, the famous story is that of Serena Williams,
Right.
who actually had a blood clot, right? And
Mhm.
she was people don't even remember. She sat out for a year. She
Yeah.
sat out for a whole year. And they didn't believe her. She went to a couple hospitals and nearly died. And
Yeah.
so they don't first they have a history of not listening to us. People in the hospital. Not necessarily whether it's white or black, just it seems like whoever's in charge in the hospital usually don't listen to people of color. And
Well,
go ahead, lie.
I was just going to
Well,
say, Lila mentioned the squeaky wheel gets the most oil. And this is a place where, especially if it's pain or some sort of new symptom that is not normal for you, it is important to not just you verbalize it, but also if you have an advocate or somebody with you, verbalize it, speak up, and be very clear about what your symptoms are, as clear as you can, and repeat it until you get an answer, as to what is the plan to address this pain or this new symptom.
wow. What should patients know about pain management to avoid the overuse? Like, I have a friend who he's like my god brother who went in and was going to have a procedure, where they like not a colonoscopy. They had to put him over, but he was having the other procedure, not as bad as a colonoscopy, and he was like, because he is in the program, meaning he is
He's in
he-
recovery.
he's a recovering thank you, Lila. You know how it's all the diet and sugary drinks. He- he's in recovery. He did not want any pain management, anything. And once he finished it, he came out and said he would never do that again. Like,
Right.
he was like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm never doing that again.
Right. Well, if you tell an anesthesiologist that, and that's the specialist that administers the medications that make you fall asleep during colonoscopies or other procedures, and colonoscopies are not bad, by the way, because you're out for them. You really don't know.
Yeah.
So there are multiple options, right,
Yeah.
for for anesthesia that are not necessarily ones that someone who is in recovery from opioid use disorder would be concerned about. And so that's actually the main point. Other than be specific about your pain, right? Don't just say it hurts, be very descriptive about where it hurts, um, you know, the location, how intense it is, the type of pain. Be very clear about communicating. Um, but keep in mind too that um, you know, there are multiple ways to treat pain outside of narcotics, right?
Mhm.
There's Tylenol, there's Aleve and
Mhm.
non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. There's steroids. There are other medicines like ketamine, for example, that can help put you to sleep. So there are multiple options. There are nerve blocks, right?
Mm.
Cold packs, physical therapy. So there are multiple different ways to treat pain. And even if you as long as you're not somebody in recovery and you're refusing opioids, taking opioids for a couple of days if you have surgical pain or cancer pain or severe pain is not going to lead to addiction. And using these other ways to support your pain relief help to wean you off of opioids in a short amount of time so that you're not at danger in danger of um, developing opioid use disorder. So I think hospitals are much more attuned now to ways to treat pain. But I think for the patient, it's really important to, or the healthcare consumer, it's really important to communicate your pain and the quality of it, where it is, how long it's been going on, etc.
Yeah. If you're at the hospital, don't downplay the pain. Tell them exactly what it
No.
is. Tell them
Yeah.
exactly what it is and where. There's no reason to downplay it at that time. At that point, we're running out of time. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
But I wanna talk about this because I think this is really really important, and a lot of people don't really consider that transitioning out of the hospital can be one of the riskiest times. What should people know leading up to going home from the hospital? Did I lose
Yep.
my camera?
No, you
Going home from
good.
the
No,
hospital,
hear you.
um, and the so-called discharge planning.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, discharge starts from the moment you get to the moment you're admitted, right? So, as a family member or caregiver, you want to be thinking about that even as the person is getting treated. So, you want to know all the doctors that have come in touch with them and who they need to be following up with when they leave the hospital. The second thing is medications. Most people are going to go home with medications. And if they were on medications already, you're going to need to make sure that the new medications and the old medications merge, right? So that's called medication reconciliation. So you want to make sure that somebody goes through that list of all the medicines that you were on, the new ones, make sure there are no interactions, and what the proper way of taking them is. You want to make sure you follow up with somebody, your primary care doctor or one of the doctors you saw within 7 to 10 days and potentially earlier, depending on the condition. And you want to get training on warning signs, things to watch out for. If there's certain diets or nutrition or equipment to use or wound care, make sure that you got all that down. And repeat the key instructions back to make sure that you have them straight.
Okay.
Okay.
So look, we have another question. We have a couple. Man, it's popping off in our chat. It's just
All right.
popping off. I want to go to it, and I see a question, a very long question, but I want to try to get to the root of it. And it's from Joni Eisenberg. What if a patient or patient's advocate keeps raising a question or concern, a key concern about their health, but the concern goes unanswered for days or weeks on end? And like the patient has been able to unwalk for a month, among other issues, and the doctor keeps ignoring the pains.
Okay. So we're specific. Hi, Joni. We're specifically talking about being in the hospital. So if that happens
Mhm,
in the context of being in the hospital where you feel like you're being ignored,
mhm,
you can ask for a patient advocate. You can ask for the head nurse. You can ask for the head hospital administrator. You can ask for the ombudsman. You can ask basically for somebody who's going to represent your case if you feel like you're not being heard.
What
If that's
was the
happening,
last person? I
an
don't want to
ombudsman,
skip. Say it again.
ombudsman,
Um.
an ombudsman, which is like an
Ombudsman.
advocate. Yes.
Okay.
Um, and then if it's happening outside the hospital, which I assume the question is geared towards, because you said it's been going on for months, this time for a second opinion. I mean, if
Yeah.
that doctor is not listening to you, move on. Because you know, time is precious, and there's no need in suffering with something if you feel like the person that is supposed to have your trust is not paying attention to you. It's time to doctor shop and find someone else.
Mhm.
All right. So, Dr. Mill, not everyone goes straight home after hospitalization. How can families assess quality in rehab or skilled nursing facilities?
Right. So this is really important because a lot of times, you know, you might find out a day or two before the person's
Yeah.
leaving, oh, you
Yeah.
gotta find a rehab facility and make a choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if it gets past the third day of hospitalization, I would ask to speak with a case manager and find out, hey, do you think my loved one is going to go to a rehab facility? Because I want to start looking now, right?
Okay. Hmm.
Um, you can use that hospital compare tool that I talked about at Medicare.gov. They provide ratings of rehabs in rehab facilities in your area. You can actually go visit them yourself, and I look for cleanliness, how attentive the staff is, how responsive they are to the people that are there, and then you can ask specific questions. You can either do it in person or you can call them on the phone. Find out what is the staff to resident ratio. Um, you know, how often do you do rehabilitation services, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, depending on what your loved one needs.
Wow. We have
All right.
we have another question in the chat, and someone asked about what is your advice about signing a DNR? What is a DNR first? About signing a DNR, and they found that once they convinced their mom, the doctors convinced their mom to sign a DNR, the doctors ignored her.
Yeah, so DNR stands for do not resuscitate. It basically means that the person is choosing, if their heart stops, to not have, you know, full court press, chest compressions, being put on a ventilator, being shocked, you know, like you see on all the dramatic TV ER shows, if your heart rhythm goes awry. And it's a highly personal decision, and it really depends, you know, what your philosophy is about life and death, where you are in your journey in life, your health, underlying health conditions. You know, it's a highly personal decision that you should make, either by talking to your family, talking to a religious figure or somebody, spiritual advisor in your life, or just meditating and making the decision yourself. Now, in the situation where the person is in the hospital and signs a DNR, yes, actually, what probably will happen is the attention will go away from trying to be curative for
Mm.
that person to just making them comfortable,
Mhm.
depending on the situation. It's highly dependent on the situation. Um, but it is something to ask before you sign a DNR. What will the care be that I will get or my loved one will get after I sign this DNR? Will it change in any way? Um, and that's a conversation that you can have with the team of people that are taking care of you. Typically, it comes, though, again, when people are, that question comes up in a hospital setting when doctors feel like they're at a point where there are not a lot of options that are medically available for that person to help prolong their life.
Wow. It it's
You got
it's
the
all
point?
it's always it's always, and we're running out of time, so we're in lightning round, so I won't get into my thing.
But let me just say, regarding there are two things. There's an advanced directive, which
Yes.
is a document that you should fill out. Anybody of any age should have an advanced directive because we don't know what might happen tomorrow, right?
Mhm,
Accidents happen all the time
mhm,
that can be disabling. So it's important to have an advanced directive that includes what you want to happen to you if you
Mhm.
cannot make decisions for yourself. And that's the context sometimes of a DNR, or again, a DNR can happen. Doctors in a hospital setting can ask a person whether they want to be resuscitated, depending on the medical situation that's ongoing at that time.
So let me say this: people are asking that we put the book up, and what what is the most important thing? Would you, if you had to pick one thing out of going into a hospital in that kind of situation, and we're in the lightning round, so I have to ask you to be brief.
Yeah,
What would it be? And I'm gonna put the book up while you say it.
I would say don't hesitate to ask questions and advocate for yourself. And I would say of all the things that we talked about tonight, probably those three questions that Wayne, you asked me to repeat. What's the plan for today? What are the signs I'm getting better? What is the next step and why? Ask those questions every day and if you're an advocate, be present. Be present for your loved one. Be there physically and set up some sort of um, rotating schedule. If you can't be there all the time, get a team of people that can help.
Lila.
Yeah, I just to piggyback on that, hospital stays can impact the village. So you need the support of the village. If you have a village, you need the support of the village so that there can be constant advocacy for the patient because people have to work, they have other responsibilities sometimes. So I think that's something that's really important is having a team. Your village is a part of the care team, and then that spills over to caregiving at home. So I think, Dr. Mel, what are some tips for the caregivers once that person comes home?
Yeah, I think when the when the person comes home, that's actually when a lot of the real work begins, right? Because it can
Mhm.
be not just a medical marathon, it can be an emotional marathon.
Sure.
So I think caregivers should get hands-on training. You should have a schedule, bring the village in, and think about your own health too as the caregiver. Your
Yes.
sleep, your diet, your mental health support, all those things are really important.
Yep.
Well, lie. That's
All
excuse
right.
me, doctor. That's it. Lie. Any words for us, Doctor Lie?
No, I'll let Dr. Mel take it out the way she takes it out.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Be Health Empowered Family. Great questions. And remember, till we see you again, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.